All right, welcome to The Explainer. Today, we're going to talk about a piece of tech that's kind of become the secret weapon for tons of companies, basically any company that's swimming in data. It's called Apache Kafka, and we're going to figure out exactly what makes it such a game changer.
So, to really get why Kafka is such a big deal, you first have to imagine a bit of, digital chaos. Okay, picture a big company, right? It's got hundreds of apps running all at once. You've got your user database over here, the payment system over there, an inventory tracker, analytics tools, you name it. And the thing is, they all need to talk to each other all the time.
And what happens when you try to connect every single one of those apps directly to every other app it needs information from? Well, you get what engineers call the data spaghetti problem. And trust me, it's exactly what it sounds like. It's just this tangled, brittle mess of connections. It's an absolute nightmare to manage or update. And scaling it? Forget about it. One tiny change somewhere can make the whole thing fall apart. It just doesn't work long term. So, what's the solution? How do you fix that spaghetti? Well, what if, instead of that tangled mess, you had one single central highway for all of that information to travel on? That, right there, is the core idea behind Apache Kafka. The best way to think about it is like a digital nervous system for a company's data. Super fast and super reliable. Okay, so the official term for it is an event streaming platform. Now, what does that even mean? It just means that instead of apps talking directly to each other, they basically just shout out events as they happen. An event could be anything: a new sale, a user clicking a button, or reading from a sensor. They send that event to one central place, to Kafka, and then any other app that cares about that information can just listen in and grab it. Simple as that. All right, so how does this digital nervous system actually work? Let's peel back the layers and look at the main parts, and we'll stick with that analogy to see how it all clicks together. First up, you have something called a producer. A producer is literally any app that sends or produces data into Kafka. In our nervous system analogy, these are your sensory organs. You know, your eyes, your ears. They're the things that detect what's happening and send that new information into the system. Now, a producer doesn't just scream into the abyss, it sends its events to a specific topic. You can just think of a topic as a category or a dedicated feed for a certain type of data. So you might have a topic for user_signups and another one for payment_transactions. In our analogy, this is like a dedicated neural pathway, a specific nerve for a specific type of signal. Okay, so on the other side of this whole thing, you have the consumer. And yeah, it does exactly what it sounds like. It's any app that consumes or subscribes to a topic so it can read those events. So sticking with our analogy, if the producer is the sense organ that feels the heat, the consumer is the muscle that pulls your hand away. It gets the signal and actually does something with it. So what's holding all this together? That would be the broker. A broker is really just a Kafka server, and you usually have a bunch of them working together in what's called a cluster, and that cluster is the heart of the whole system. The brokers are the ones actually taking in all the data from producers, storing it safely, and then handing it out to the consumers. They are essentially the brain and spinal cord of our nervous system, the central command that makes sure every signal gets where it needs to go, no matter what. Okay, so when you build a system this way, it gets some, pretty incredible abilities. We can call them Kafka's 4 superpowers, and these are the real reasons why huge companies absolutely depend on it.
First up is scalability. If you need to handle more data, you just add more brokers to the system. No downtime, no fuss. It just grows with you. Second, durability. Your data is super safe. Kafka copies it across multiple servers, so even if one of them goes down, no data is lost. Third, high throughput, and this is a big one. It is incredibly fast. We're talking about handling millions of messages every single second. And finally, number 4, decoupling. This is the magic that solves our whole spaghetti problem. The services don't need to know anything about each other anymore. They just need to know how to talk to Kafka, and that makes everything so much simpler.
All right, so that's all the technical stuff, but where is this actually being used? Like out in the real world. Let's take a look at a couple of examples of Kafka in the wild. A really common one is log aggregation. I mean, instead of trying to pull log files from hundreds of different servers, each server just fires its logs into a Kafka topic. Done. It's also massive for real-time analytics. Think about your credit card company. They can process transaction events the instant they happen to spot fraud in milliseconds. And another really cool one is event sourcing. This is where you use Kafka to store every single change that ever happens in an application. It gives you a perfect, time-traveling history of your data that you can replay anytime. So, if you take one thing away, it should be this.
Kafka takes that absolute mess of data spaghetti we talked about and replaces it with this clean, organized, and seriously powerful central nervous system. It lets data flow through a company the same way nerve signals flow through your body, instantly, reliably, and getting to the exact spot where it's needed.
And that really brings us to the big picture. Look, we are generating more data right now than ever before in history. It's a flood. And technologies like Kafka don't just help us, tread water, they allow us to react to that flood of information in real time. So I'll just leave you with this question to think about. As more and more of our world's data becomes available instantly, what new